welcome to our annual Meet the Candidates night. And thank you for coming out this evening and for watching at home, on television, or online. Lake Ridge is one of the largest homeowner associations in the country. We encompass 2,277 homes on 4,200 acres. Lake Ridge is a $4 million corporation that is operated by a staff of 50 full and part-time employees. We have 5 swimming pools, 2 community centers, and this is one of them, a preschool, and numerous sports fields and playgrounds. The affairs of the association, however, such as establishing policy, strategic planning, and determining the amount of annual assessments and fees, these are performed by an elected 9-member board of directors who volunteer their time in service to their community. Each year, an election is held to elect 3 members to the board. Board members serve 3-year terms. Tonight, we have 5 candidates with us. 1 candidate is out of town and will join us by speakerphone. Another candidate is in Europe at the moment on business, so he's unable to join us. So there are 7 candidates for your consideration in this year's election. I should like you to meet the candidates. From your left, Hugh Haydale Finn, Ms. Shelley Ferguson, Steve Northup, Mr. Scott O'Neill, who is overseas at the moment, Mr. Mike Steffens, who is joining us by speakerphone. Are you there, Mike? Ms. Sophia Bitter and Ms. Zoe Bitter. Let's give them a warm welcome. This evening, I'll be asking our candidates 4 questions prepared by the nominating committee. There will also be an opportunity for members of the audience to ask questions. We've asked our candidates to keep their answers within a 2-minute time limit. And to this end, we have a timekeeper, Ms. Laura Krause, and she will give our speakers a 15-second warning as they start to run out of time. So let's begin. Our first question is, please introduce yourself to the membership. What are the skills and talents you would bring to the board of directors? We'll start with Mr. Delphin.
Good evening. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for coming tonight. One of the things that I've learned while living overseas is the importance of working together and united as a community. I am a Lake Ridge homeowner since 2013 while I was overseas. I rented my home. Now that I'm back, I would like to be part of the community association to support our community in any possible way, from security issues to concerns that affect homeowners. While posted abroad, I often volunteer to the U.S. Embassies Associations, which serve American diplomats with basic needs, things that we take for granted, such as a good Thanksgiving turkey. Let me not forget to thank all the members and all the men and women of our armed services. I thank you for your service and share your sacrifice. I know what it is to be away from home, and to all, believe me, there is no place in the world like home. As a board member of the Community Association in Tunis, Tunisia, I help improve the community store by upgrading how they point of sale software. I created a private computer network for the association. I negotiated the upgrade of the computer hardware, and I implemented a wireless network for members of the association. In Panama City, Panama, I worked closely with the Recreation Committee to organize events that are of interest to the community. This included Halloween, Christmas, and end-of-school year events. During the time I served in the board, we also upgraded the community store and implemented incentives to encourage our members to buy in there. In Moscow, Russia, I was the chair for the technology subcommittee. I restructured the internet service that we provided to the members of the association. I worked with the board to balance the books and to establish best practices for the recreation areas. When you vote, remember to vote for the candidate that has the ideas to improve the community. Positive improvements add to the home value and quality of life for all our families. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Ferguson.
Good evening. My name is Shelley Ferguson. I'm new to the community as of 31st of July this past summer. I moved from a large apartment building, multi-family apartment building. I lived in Arlington for decades, over a decade, and had been searching for a nice place to live for the last 2 years. I sought places in Alexandria, hoping to keep close to the Pentagon, but did branch out, and I came across this community and just fell in love with it. This was a big purchase for myself and my family, and I am deeply committed to contributing to the success of the community. My skills, I am a program manager for the Department of the Navy. I do work in Arlington, and have had a great deal of education given to me thanks to the services, the Department of the Air Force and the Navy for that. Hopefully those skills will come forward and help me to help you and be successful for all of us. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Northup.
Good evening and welcome all of you here tonight to meet the candidates at Talos Community Center. I'd also like to thank of you inviting us thanks to Comcast and the Community Channel. I'm Steve Northup. I'm in this election for a board seat. I'm currently a member of the board and serve as your secretary. My wife and I have lived here in Lake Ridge since August 1983. We raised our 2 daughters here. They're both Prince William County school teachers. They teach right here in the schools. 2 out of the 3 that they attended. They're now family, have families of their own, and they're property owners right here in Lake Ridge. I'm asking for your vote tonight to continue to be engaged in this wonderful community that's financially stable, beautiful with all of our amenities, and very well taken care of. We have a veteran staff, and Mr. Berry talked about some of them tonight. They do a great job. They come to work each and every day to do the best they can for the community and do what the board has asked them to do. And we're very grateful on the board, and I think homeowners should be too, for the effort that they put in. I'm asking to have the opportunity to continue some unfinished business that the board has taken up the past couple of years, one of them being the Trails Project and our deer management program and whatever else might come up on the radar screen. So I'd ask for your vote to allow me to work on your behalf and on behalf of your family.
Thank you. As Mr. Scott O'Neill could not be present tonight, as we told you he's in Germany at the moment, I would like to read his submitted biography. I moved to Lake Ridge in 2002 and resided in Springwoods Apartments. My wife and I fell in love with Lake Ridge and we purchased our home in 2004. I deployed to Europe in 2007 through 2013. Our house was rented during this period, but our hearts and roots we established here in our home. I have 26 years of military leadership in my units and communities where I resided. I got involved by coaching youth sports, working at the post thrift stores, and volunteering at community events. I have extensive experience in planning, programming, budgeting and budget execution, and facilities management. I attained my master's degree in organizational leadership in 2012. I feel that both my professional and personal experiences and knowledge provides the skills required to serve on the LRPRA Board of Directors. Next, Mr. Steffens will join us by phone. Mike?
Yes. positions. In these leadership roles, I was also an Inspector General at the Department of Veterans Affairs, Housing and Urban Development, and the Federal Housing and Finance Agency. I had various roles in the Inspector General's office. With the concentration on combating fraud, waste, and mismanagement, the job of the Inspector General is to look at different government programs and point out their waste and mismanagement. And I believe that we contributed to saving taxpayers' funds. The budget of these organizations were $40 million plus Inspector General's office and over 700 employees. So I think that background will serve me well if I'm elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sophia Vitter.
Good evening. My name is Sophia Vitter. Thank you to everyone who came out tonight, and thanks to the LRPRA for holding this forum. My goal in the LRPRA Board of Directors will be to make Lake Ridge a better place to live, work, and play. We want to attract people to Lake Ridge. We should have a better sense of community. We could have block parties, community cleanups, and community yard sales. We should also have a wider variety of programs and clubs available to the residents of Lake Ridge. The majority of people who choose to move to Lake Ridge are young families. They are looking for things such as pools, skate parks, basketball courts, trails, and good schools. These things are desirable when searching for a place to raise your children. I will support and help promote local businesses in Lake Ridge. I think the LRPRA can be doing things to promote local businesses, such as having a business of the month, in which the business selected will put a section in the newsletter explaining what they do and where they are located. I think we should create an online version of the newsletter with links to local businesses' websites. By putting these businesses in the newsletter, whether in paper copy or online, the LRPRA will be helping local businesses, many of which employ or are owned by local residents. I will vote to replace aging playground equipment with better, more innovative equipment. I will also vote to put vending machines back at the pools. I support extending and connecting the Eastern Trail to Occoquan. The Eastern Trail is used by hundreds of residents, and extending and connecting it will provide hundreds more with access.
Thank you. Ms. Zoe Vitter.
Hi everyone, my name is Zoe Vitter. A little bit about me. My undergraduate degree is in special education and I taught for 6 years. I've worked at George Mason University since 2009 and I am currently a research assistant at the Center for Evidence-Based Crime Policy. I earned a master's degree in criminology in 2014 and am a doctoral candidate in the same field. I've been an active member of the Prince William community for well over a decade. I was a member and then president of my last homeowners association. During that time, I worked with developers in the county to improve common areas and led community cleanups. One of the organizations I belong to that I'm most proud of is Prince William Trails and Streams Coalition, a local nonprofit established to maintain and build a county-wide system of trails and blueways in Prince William. I was the group's first president, and this is actually the first year since that time, 2008, that I will not serve as either the president or vice president, although I'm still on the board. I've served as an appointee on several county boards, including the 2030 Future Commission, and reviewed the budget a number of times. I've been the NEAPSCO appointee on the Trails and Blueways Council since 2009, and the Blue Ridge representative on the Parks and Recreation Commission since 2013. From 2009 through 2014, I volunteered regularly at Fitzgerald Elementary School and served as the president of the School Advisory Council from 2011 through 2013. And in that capacity, I set up a lending library, which lending is in quotes because we actually distributed thousands of books to needy students at that school. I've been honored to receive the 11th Congressional District Grassroots Volunteer of the Year Award in 2008 and Citizen of the Year from Dale City Civic Association in 2009.
Thank you. Our second question for the candidates. What do you think LRPRA can do to improve property values? And we'll begin this time with Ms. Zoe.
Property values increase when number of people who want to move into a community is higher than the number of people who want to leave the community. So the key to increasing the value of our homes is to make Lake Ridge an attractive place to live, both to potential home buyers and to existing homeowners. Three things stand out to me. First is maintaining orderly, attractive common areas. Our mature trees and decorative roadsides are one of the things that distinguish Lake Ridge from other areas of the county. And we do a great job on this, but there are still areas of erosion and bare earth. There are still areas that we can improve on. And taking excellent care of our common areas is a clear sign to potential home buyers that we care about our community. Second, I think we need to stay up to date. We have a slew of wonderful amenities. In many ways, though, we are starting to show our age, and we will need to update facilities and have more online services, I think, if we're going to continue to attract young home buyers. Finally, I think we need to make sure that there are clear, consistent rules that are uniformly and transparently applied. Those of you who moved here long ago might not realize what the property disclosure packet looks like today. It's an email with 16 attachments on it, and the property violations for my packet were on the third attachment, 9th item down on the second page. This is an easy thing to fix. It should be right there on the very first page if anyone hears it over there and there are any violations on the property. So those are some thoughts.
Thank you. Ms. Sophia Pitt.
The LRPRA could raise property values by making common grounds look nicer. The LRPRA is currently focused on minor house violations, when its common grounds have violations such as bare patches that are missing grass and experiencing erosion. For instance, one thing that I've noticed is when fall comes and all the leaves fall off the trees, it's often early winter before all the leaves are cleaned up. Heavy leaf cover for extended periods of time can cause dead patches in grass. One solution would be to create a common grounds landscaping committee. This committee could inspect common grounds and collect complaints from residents and pass them on to the landscaping workers to make them more effective.
Thank you. Mr. Stephens, by phone. Mike?
Yes, sir. With my background in law enforcement, I intend to increase the liaison with the local law enforcement. I think more now than ever, people are concerned about security and safety of Lakewood, and I believe that we can do more to learn about the areas that we could be concerned about and enhance our relationship with local law enforcement. As well as maintaining the common areas, we have a well-respected community, but it doesn't stay this way without us working together to maintain those property values. That includes those folks that rent their homes as well as the homes that are occupied. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norfolk.
We are an ancient community, we all know that. And I think we've charted the right course and we're in the right direction. We have roughly an 8% increase over our investments over the last 10 years, and we continue to reinvest our earnings in that regard, so we're financially sound and profitable. Our facilities are really in pretty good shape for the age that they are, and our amenities the same way. And the homeowners' assessments are relatively low compared to the other local HOAs. That's a good thing. We have a group of individuals who work here at Lake Ridge. I mentioned in my opening remarks. We have a maintenance team that does a fabulous job keeping up the pools, the tennis courts, the tot lots. We have a state-of-the-art fantasy playground out here. We have tennis courts. It's absolutely amazing. They do more with less, and I'm very proud of that group. We also have a recreation department. Things that take place are put out in the letter, which is unbelievable. We even have it colorized now. We have an open engagement with community people in terms of restaurants and spas. We'll get 10% or more if all you do is provide your homeowner's card. We have fish outs. We have the flea market. We have Doggy Paddle. The list goes on and on. The amount of clubs that our group gets involved with is absolutely amazing for our homeowners. And lastly, we have our Covenants group. And they're out on the street every day trying to find and minimize deviations. Homeowners that may or may not know that there's a problem, taking care of it, and they do it with a smile on their face. So we're headed in the right direction. Is there more that can be done? Absolutely. And if it comes up on the radar screen, either by way of the homeowners and our staff, we'll take it on.
Thank you. Ms. Ferguson.
As a scene setter, the Lake Ridge community has positional power, in my opinion, meaning that the community and the businesses on the property are well entrenched into the surrounding area and is a bellwether for how this part of Prince William County will fare into the next decade. Likewise, surrounding businesses are linked to our success or demise as we move forward. The association has several options that can be executed to improve property values in the Lake Ridge community. Each actionable option may be pegged to a cost and time scale ranging from no-cost items that can be implemented quickly to high-cost options that require planning, comparing proposals, etc. The four suggestions that I will discuss on the left side of the spectrum, which are no to little cost initiatives and easy to implement, such as 1, liaising with our schools and establishing a Lake Ridge Ambassadors and Mentor program. Consumers want to live in high-performing school districts and will pay to be near a good school. To improve our property values, we must liaise with our schools to power up initiatives to achieve and or maintain blue ribbon status. We can support our schools by engaging in an outreach program, by assisting with tutoring and special educational briefings, etc. Secondly, recognizing the importance of neighborhood safety to property values. The association must affirm a strong relationship with the county seat, local businesses, and men and women who provide police and fire protection, and having a strong community relationship, which I believe Lake Ridge has demonstrated in partnering with neighboring businesses. It is a life preserver for maintaining property values. Thirdly, supporting the association's architectural committee and seeking their support more fully. We should turn towards the architectural committee to balance curb appeal initiatives with funds available in our common areas and throughout the neighborhood. Fourth, informing buyer and seller agents. Lake Ridge should sponsor informational spring and fall socials for real estate agents. Provide the realtors with virtual and guided tours and sharing information on anchoring stores like Giant Food Line, Safeway, the auto store, and the family businesses surrounding. Those are all key. In summary, there is a broad spectrum of choices to make when it comes to improving property values. I just provided a few low-cost choices. There are many other initiatives to discuss, including more costly initiatives for a more aggressive strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Delphin.
To improve homeowners' property values, it is essential that we all work together as a community. You say to yourself, what affects the neighbor also affects me. We can work together to improve our quality of life. One of the things that the Lake Ridge Association needs to do to listen to the issues and concerns from the members. When I first met with the elections committee, I asked them what was the major issues and concerns from you, the members. The answer was, one of the issues we have is the trash bins that are left outside the house. When I asked about the security issues, there was no answer. As I met so far with some of you, I learned that the homeowners in Antiera Wood condominiums have complained to the Lake Ridge Association about multi-purpose field that is being used as a soccer field 99% of the time. During the nighttime, about 20 adults play soccer. This field disrupts to the homeowners and puts in disadvantage their home values. Until today, there is no answer from the Lake Ridge Association. Sales opportunities also decreased due to the fact that not too many people want to buy a home where you have adults hanging out during the night. This environment not only disrupts Antiera Woods condo owners, but also raises a security concern. I know that in some occasions the police had to be called. Again, what affects your neighbor affects you and your home value. I believe the current board is disconnected with its members. This needs to change to improve homeowners' relationships and enhance property value for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is, 1 in 6 homes in Lake Ridge is now occupied by tenants. How might the association be more inclusive of the tenant population. We'll begin with Mr. Steffens on the phone. Mike?
Well, I believe that the interest of the homeowner and the tenant are the same. The tenant decided to move into Lake Ridge and many other places that they could look at, but their decision was to come to Lake Ridge because it attracted them similar to someone buying a home. I have renters in my neighborhood who use all the facilities, enjoy all the schools, tennis courts, and I think we treat them the same as we would a homeowner. Now, in some cases, the renters may not be aware of all the covenants that they have to maintain in the absence of the homeowners. And I think in some cases, we could do a better job of informing that homeowner of their obligations to make sure that those covenants are honored in their absence. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sophia Bitter.
I think part of the way the LRPRA could be more inclusive of the renter population would be to be more transparent with the renters. Currently, when there is a violation on the unit occupied by the renter, only the homeowner is notified, not the renter. However, if the owner does not fix the violation, the renter is also affected. I also think the LRPRA should create an advisory committee comprised of renters who live in the Lake Ridge community. I think some of the best ideas on how to better include the renter population could and should come from the renters themselves because they are in the best position to tell us what they want in view.
Thank you. Zoe.
I think that we can build better relationships with the rental community in the same way we can build better relationships with any part of the community. Open communication and equal rights among residents. I would examine the ways that the association communicates with renters compared to owners. If we're currently only communicating with owners, then that's going to be a problem. Renters should also have the right to use facilities without other layers of requirements that the owners have.
Thank you. Mr. Belfin.
While I was overseas, I rented my home to a tenant. The tenant often mentioned that she liked living here and that it's a peaceful community. Unfortunately, she had to leave our home because we were coming back, and she could not move to another Lake Ridge home because she decided to retire outside Virginia. The reality is that a lot of the tenants find Lake Ridge as a place to stay for good. As a matter of fact, one of the candidates is a former tenant. When I met with one of the Lake Ridge leasing communities, I learned that the upkeep of the neighborhood is important to the tenants. And what makes it a close leasing deal is the amenities provided by the Lake Ridge Association. I was also told that the Lake Ridge Association needs to communicate with the leasing communities to include amenities schedules like the schedule of pool. Again, one of the issues with the association is the lack of communication and sharing of information. Improving the upkeep of the common grounds, taking care of the recreation areas, adding or improving amenities, and establishing a better communication will improve the quality of life for tenants and homeowners alike.
Thank you. Ms. Ferguson.
Though the tenant population is currently under 20%, this is an excellent question, as the community writ large should be prepared to welcoming a doubling of tenants in the next few years. There is no documentation that would support such a requirement, but in my opinion, we have unpredictable demand signals for housing and job growth. The constant bantering of sequestration, no sequestration, private sector job growth up, private sector employment down, young couples are now ready to leave the city for homes and front yards, as opposed to staying in the city, that's all inconsistent messaging. Today's economic signals are not an indication of tomorrow's economic report. Therefore, this is the most appropriate question. How do we include the tenant population? Having a welcome program that can be incorporated by homeowners and our property management teams and the transfer of a unit to a renter is the best chance to reach future tenants. The welcome packages would include membership package personalized for the incoming tenant. Beyond the welcome packs, perhaps the board of directors could create an honorary rotation position for tenants. The tenant would inform the board of pros and cons of living in the community.
This discussion would preempt a communication breakdown or an inadvertent overlook of the tenant population. Further to this point, it might be useful to include a rotational position for our youth so they can contribute and experience management through the lens of a board member. These are a few ideas that I mulled over the last week, and I hope they are of interest to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Norfolk.
I think our HOA does an excellent job of trying to incorporate the rental population alongside the homeowners. But it's all a matter of perception. And if the renters don't think that we're doing that, we're not doing it to their expectation. I know that we put together a lot of town hall meetings, and we'll bring renters and we'll bring homeowners together to talk about these things, and generally it's done in the fall of each year. It's hosted by some of the board members and our general manager, and I would like to think that that would be one venue, one opportunity, so the renters can feel valued and they can understand what our expectations are. But ultimately, it's the homeowner that needs to pass that on to their tenant. I think things that we do, and I mentioned community yard sales, Taste of Lake Ridge, good opportunity to get everybody together, renters, homeowners, families alike. And I also think that we as a homeowners association, especially board of directors, needs to be very aware of what's going on. It's been, as we've talked about here with some of the board members, and I would encourage that discussion in several of our board meetings going forward.
Thank you. Now, before we ask our candidates to make their concluding remarks, I'd like to see if any members of the audience would like to ask questions. And so please raise your hand. The lady in the red shirt.
My question is for Mr. Norfolk. The Lake Ridge Association has made some changes to a recreational area.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I apologize.
The Lake Ridge Association has made some changes to a recreational area that disrupts the peace around the houses in my community and decrease our home values. The association president has not answered my emails regardless of several attempts from my part to find a solution to this problem. As you seek re-election, what can you do in regards of this situation that will give you my vote?
When you have an issue like that and you bring it to some member, either the board or our staff, they share that, and we're vividly aware of that kind of situation. And if yours hasn't drawn any attention yet, I want to apologize for that, because we're very sensitive to making sure, especially when it comes to the recreation, the common area, anything that is involved with our group, with the homeowners getting involved, especially with small children like you have.
That's my main concern.
Would any other candidate like to comment on that question?
Thank you.
Okay. John, I believe you had a question.
Yes, for Ms. Bitter? Yes. I'm not really an expert on this, but when I was on one of the committees, I referred to that as my time on a leash, because there were severe restrictions on my communications with other members of the committee. And I was wondering how you and Ms. Bitter would address the restrictions on communications about Lake Ridge LRPRA business.
Well, I believe that, I mean, I don't know how far that actually applies to a homeowners association compared to a county committee.
No, this is a Lake Ridge LRPRA committee.
Well, right. But generally speaking, those types of restrictions kick in when you have 3 or more people in communication, not 2 people. 2 people can always communicate about things. This isn't obviously an issue. This is my daughter. I did not tell her to run. She came to me and she wanted to run. And this was entirely her idea, and I want to be a supportive parent, just like most of us do. While she asks for advice on occasion about things, and often for information about things, I assure you that she does not always agree with me. And in matters that are up to her discretion, she keeps her own counsel. So, does that help to address your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Any more questions on that side of the room? Yes.
I have a few questions. Is that all right? For the whole panel, just real quick, how long have each of you been a homeowner in Lake Ridge?
I've been since 2013.
I arrived the 31st of July this year,
Okay.
or 15.
1983.
We moved in this summer, but obviously I don't own the home.
Okay.
We've lived in Woodbridge since 2002.
Okay. In Woodbridge. But what about Lake Ridge homeowners association?
Since July.
Two-part question for Zoe. Do you believe it was a good decision to allow your adolescent daughter, who was a minor, to run for the LRPRA board as a candidate? And is this type of decision-making and leadership should we expect if you were elected?
I don't think the Lake Ridge Homeowner Property Owners Association is a dangerous or unsafe activity, and I don't think that there are things that are inappropriate for minors. I think this is a learning opportunity for them. I'm not sure what you're referring to as, what was the last part?
I mean, you got it. You're good.
Any more questions? That's it? Any questions on this side of the room? Yes, the lady in the
I have two questions. Mr. Berry, if you could, for the whole audience, could you tell us what positions are open that we are attempting to fill? What positions on the board?
Yes. The board, as I said earlier, has 9 positions on it, and each year 3 become vacant.
Which 3 this year?
Well, it's every year we elect 3 people to the board. Is it larger?
So there's no specific secretary or?
Oh, no.
Okay. Okay.
Just board members.
Okay, so that answers
they
the
know
general
board
question.
members.
My second question is for you folks, and I appreciate all you've done. We've lived in the community 24 years, so really appreciate you volunteering. But for each of you, just for sake of brevity, one sentence answer. What do you see as the greatest risk to the LRPRA quality and safety of life for the residents and tenants?
Well, I could start if you don't mind. One of the issues that I learned was the lack of communication between the association and the homeowners. Like I presented the case of a family that has issues with the soccer field or multi-purpose courts, whatever you want to call it. And it's just as simple as establishing a communication. I mean, no communication whatsoever from one side of the field doesn't fix anything. It probably just keeps escalating the situation. In regards to the security issues, it's interesting that you bring this up because one of the things that I did, I started doing my research. Every time that I volunteer to do something, I like to research what I'm getting into. So when I started looking at the security concerns, I learned that in the month of November, there was 722 incidents reported by the police. And some of the incidents are panic alarms and suspicious persons were like the top of the list. And I can show you the graph if you want to see it. So working with the police department, coming from a security background, establishing good communication with the police department is always a good idea. How to protect our neighborhood and how to provide better protection, so including increasing the value of the properties will help with that as well.
Yeah, could you repeat the question, please?
What do you see as the greatest risk to the LRPR quality and safety of life for tenants and residents?
I think it's the economy and apathy that can set in, which all lends to security, fear, and lack of security. So with that, you really need to have a strong community, working with the schools, bringing in the youth, and having a close relationship with the police and fire departments. The growth that I read about is going towards Stafford County, My fear is that there will be a big leapfrog over our area. We have an excellent place to live, and this is the time to start showcasing and building these relationships to keep that in place.
I support both those answers, but specifically I worry about crime, destruction of property. If we had some type, and I don't know how we could generate that in an alert system, that would come from Prince William County or the fire department, specifically the police and fire, just to kind of give us a heads up. I think we made good inroads with the police department. There are multiple patrols. Some of the people, staff will make phone calls if the guys are or the women are out and about, and many of them in the covenants, as well as the maintenance, have run into problems. So I'd really like to see an effort made to really improve on that. And one other thing I was going to mention was our involvement with the schools. I would like to see the Homeowners Association, LRPRA, continue to get involved with the high schools. We've done one major inroad with an ecology group at one of the local high schools here, and it's been really good. It kind of reminds me of getting involved with the Streams Coalition and also with the trails.
Any comments? Mr. Steffens, do you have any comments?
I'm sorry, I cannot hear the question. Repeat the question.
Could you repeat it loudly?
What do you see as the greatest risk to the LRPR quality and safety of life for tenants and residents?
Still don't have it, sorry.
Maybe you should say it because you're closer
Yeah,
to the phone.
the question is, what do you see as the greatest threat to quality of life for the LRPRA residents?
One more time, please.
Yeah. What do you see is the greatest threat to the LRPRA residents?
Well, we live in very strange and difficult times right now. And I think one of the priorities of every homeowner, every renter, is to feel that they live in a safe community. We have many, many wonderful things in language that we can control, but safety and security oftentimes is something that we cannot control. So I think my ability to communicate and to work liaison with local law enforcement to make sure that Lake Ridge residents' concerns are brought forth to them. It's their job to protect Lake Ridge. And I think you can do a whole lot as far as enhancing the environment, but we need to focus on enhancing the environment regarding the social problems that every community has across the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sophia Bitt?
I think the board is stuck in what it used to do in the 1900s, and I think we need a newer, younger perspective for all the new families living here.
Ms. Sophia?
I think the greatest risk to our community would be falling off property values. I saw in our last community when the foreclosure crisis hit, it creates turnover and change and churn. And when you get that, you risk losing a sense of community that makes a community a safe place.
Well, we have time for either 3 more questions or 1 long question.
Thank you, Mr. Derry. So, I believe a major responsibility of the board is to maintain the financial health of the association. That's a big responsibility that the board has. And a big part of that financial health has to do with the reserve study. That's, in fact, part of the law that we have to do a reserve study. And that reserve study has to be funded. So would you speak to your understanding of the reserve study and your willingness to fund that reserve study.
Okay, why don't we start on this end and go that way?
I think if the reserve study is required, then we'd be required to fund it. And I'd be perfectly willing to learn all I need to know about it.
Sophia?
Well, if it's required, it's obviously required, but if we want to, if it's required, we should do it, and maybe it had some interesting things, but
I think it's absolutely vitally important and necessary to go through the reserve study and follow it just the way it's laid out. I think it's incumbent upon the board of directors to make sure that they scrutinize every balance sheet that is generated by our staff to make sure that we're spot on with how we spend our money, the amount of revenue that's coming in, and we're reinvesting that revenue into our overall financial stability.
I would fund the reserve study. I would take caution and maybe speak to a few different groups about their ability to support the association. The finances will be key. As I mentioned in my briefing, that we're in very unpredictable times at this point. So conservatism is something that I support. So I would, the reserve study should be funded.
Well, first of all, I would like to say I don't know anything about this reserve study. So if you could give me an example, because I don't want to make things up. Can you give me an example? An example of a reserve study?
Could you clarify the question?
So, homeowner associations are mandated by law to do a reserve study. That's when somebody comes in and they evaluate all of your amenities, your community centers, your pools, roads that we own. We don't own all the roads in Lake Ridge, but we own some. I think in townhouses or condos or what have you, and they need to be asphalted and kept up, what have you. So that study basically tells us how much money we need to set aside, anticipating all the repairs, all the replacements, all the renovations, renewals that we have to do.
Thank you. So with that said, can I, again, I don't like to just answer something out of the blue without knowing what I'm talking about, so that's why I would like to, and I thank you for your clarification. One of the things that we did in Moscow, I was in Moscow, I was in the association, the board associations. We had a lot of issues with trying to balance the budget. And one of the things that we did something similar to what you're describing, and where we did a study, so what needed to be cut and where we needed the money to be allocated. So we continued, we didn't need to have a study per se, but within the association, we needed to balance the budget. So in order to balance the budget, there's some tough choices that we have to make. And unfortunately, some people don't like it, and it's just the way it has to be to maintain an organization running. So I definitely support a balanced study, definitely.
Mr. Steffens, do you have any comment on that? Did you hear the question?
Yes, sir. Please repeat it.
Could you just give a repeat?
So, Mr. Stevens, my question was, I believe a big responsibility of the board is to maintain our financial health. And a big part of that financial health is a mandate by law that we do a reserve study every so many years. I think the law says 5 years. We do it every 3 years. And that reserve study basically tells us how much money we need to, what kind of funding we need to set aside to be able to renovate community centers, upkeep our pools and all those kinds of things. And your understanding of the reserve study and your willingness to fund it.
Well, I think one of the major responsibilities of the board, first of all, is to ensure that the membership fees are indeed spent correctly. And as far as the future is concerned, I think that's the failure of many HOAs of not budgeting for future costs. I would support it. I would have to say I would need to be educated a bit more to understand it better. But I think indeed you have to look forward in your budgets as well as maintain responsible stewardship of membership fees. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? Doug.
Thanks, Chris. My name is Doug O'Brien. I've lived in, Mike, I will speak loud. If you can't hear me, just let me know. My name is Doug O'Brien. I lived in Lake Ridge for the past 27 years. I've been on the board for the last 8 or 9 years. We're in great shape. If you get elected and are fortunate enough to serve on the board, it's going to be a wonderful experience. Over the last 10 years, where many HOAs went out of business because of funding problems, we maintained the highest rating for financials, and it allowed us to do some of the things, long-term planning, repairing roads. We have a lot more we can do. If you don't get elected, what I'd like to know is how do you plan to contribute to Lake Ridge? It's not about being on the board. It's about being an active member of the community and making a difference. There's so many things we need to do, and one of the biggest challenges you're going to find is only 14% of the residents vote. And all they have to do is fill out a little card and check a box. So when you want to get the people involved and participating in the Trails Committee and the other things, we need to have a neighborhood of people who are involved and appreciative of this fabulous, wonderful community that so many people work for. So if you don't get elected, how will you contribute in the next year, and what will your passion be? And I am delighted to see people of such talent and ability and passion running. And for that, this will be my last year on the board. I am greatly appreciative of you doing that. Thank you.
We'll start with Mr. Delfin.
How will you contribute? Great question. I'm so passionate about volunteerism. It's just incredible. It's not just about serving at the associations, but it's also doing extracurricular activities. A lot of the things that I do with diplomatic security currently is actually working with job fairs, bringing young talents to and teaching them about what we do in our organization. But also, we do a lot of outreach in the high schools, for example. So that's something that I love to do. I'm passionate because that's where you grow the kids and teach them, hey, just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. And sometimes we need to push them through the guiding them to the right path. So definitely, that's one of my passions. So if I don't get elected, I'm just gonna continue doing what I'm doing, which I think is on the right path. And I've been trying to contact the high school, but I've been having troubles doing that. But once I do so, rest assured I'll be volunteering at the high school.
Jorge, thank you. I have your name down. We'll be calling.
If I'm not elected, I will pass over my ideas, and we discussed the low-cost ideas, that there are options for strategies, more aggressive strategies to increase property values. I will attend the meetings when I can and hear how things are going. I will continue to meet my neighbors and do outreach on my own, but you will see me around and say hi and just stay involved.
So on January 19th is our next board meeting, and it's open to all the residents, so I'm sure you'll be there to share with us personally your ideas. We don't want to lose touch with you.
Okay.
Mr. O'Brien, if I were not to win this election, I would find it very difficult to go cold turkey with not being involved with the residents, the members of the board that I've been able to serve with, the staff, and the community. So on January the 19th, if I'm going to be here whether I'm on the board or not. I guess we won't know by then, but I'm going to be prepared just in case I don't get you.
We'll still have you walking the trail, Steve. That's guaranteed. Mike Stevens, Mike, how might you contribute if you don't get elected to the board?
Well, I'm
Sorry for you.
As Donald Trump about being elected. I will continue to do what I do on my own. I spend a lot of time on the Aquapon Reservoir. And for those that are not go out there very often, there is a problem of litter throughout Aquapon Reservoir. I pick up a whole boatload probably 4 or 5 times a year. In addition to that, I think these walking trails are important. And I think what we need to do is really push that. We're talking about enhancing the area, the property values. The plan is a very good plan, but it needs volunteers. So I hope whoever wins the election, and I hope it's me, has to have the ability to get volunteers to do things as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Ms. Sophia, good.
I will continue to help the community the way I always have. I've been a volunteer with the Prince William Trails and Streams Coalition for 8 years. I love to help out with cleanups and homeless drives. And when I take my dog for a walk, I take a bag with me and pick up the litter. So, yeah.
I'm wondering, you have all our names and addresses and contact information, so you're just going to call them?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
That's the real question. I'm going to get into this in my closing a bit, but I'm already planning to have a trail work day in March or April to fix up the trail section that we just built last year. It's slimy in places, it has some wet patches. I want to fix that. I also want to fix the steep slope that is on the other side of the street. I will continue to do all of the things that I have been doing even before I moved here, which I'm going to get into in my next answer.
Does anybody have a question they really want to ask? Yes, the gentleman here in the booth.
Yeah, actually, I don't really have a particular question for any of these candidates, but I just want to go back to a previous question that gentleman asked about the reserve study. I just want to get a bit of clarification from him if that's possible, and maybe it's relevant for these candidates to develop a position later on. Because I feel like out of all the questions that's being asked tonight, that one question may have caused a little bit of questioning for some of these people, confusion a little bit. So I'm wondering, did that gentleman actually have a specific concern with the reserve study, or were you simply trying to solicit,
So if I were running for the board, you could ask me that question.
I was just curious, because I'm actually interested in it too. So, if you had a specific concern, we just want to know their position.
Well, if I were running for the board, you could ask me that question.
Any more questions?
I'm concerned about the properties. There's a lot of deterioration with the properties, fencing, lampposts, painting, that sort of thing. And I understand that there's like hundreds of violations that are unanswered. And I'm thinking that there's either a problem with the bylaws or we don't have enough staff to address these. And I'm wondering what you would do if you were elected to address these better.
Does anybody want to volunteer to answer the question?
Well, one of the things that I would like to say regarding that question is a lot of people refer Lake Ridge as an aging community. To me, that's not too many of us like to hear that we're aging. So therefore, I would like to look into some type of study that we could do to see what we could do to improve the looks of Lake Ridge. I think the last time some condominiums were built or some houses were built was back in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. But so we should start looking into reshaping the looks of Lake Ridge for sure. So probably adding it to the study would be a good idea, just to see how we could improve the services. And we have great talent among the members, so I'm sure we could find some good solutions to that question.
Yes, sir. I share some of the same concerns. You know, sometimes when you're buying a property, you're so overtaken with the beauty that the environment has, and then when you get in, you start to see a little bit of the warts, if you will. The spectrum of cost that I was sharing and with the options, I just tried to present something that would not scare people away, because I often hear, I also own a condo, that I don't want my homeowners association contribution to increase. So not to put fear into all of you, I was trying to propose things that could be done at a low cost handling. For the types of things that you're discussing, I also see where lighting does a lot for a property. You know, painting, if it's a wood fence, or actually swapping out the wood fence for something a little bit more elegant, if you will. So I think the good news is that there's a lot of things that can be done to construct a frontal a strategy to get back in where the buyer or the selling agents are interested to bring consumers around to us, to our property. But I do hear what you're saying, and I would be actively pursuing and working with the community for beautification efforts.
Mr. Dale, I went through that same situation as dealing with an area behind my house that I was trying to get the trees cut down, get the swale taken care of, and I think I knew the answer when it was going to come to me, and it did. They have a priority list in our maintenance operation that keeps track of the necessary things that need to be done immediately. A tree is hanging over a trail. A tree is in the middle of the street. They respond to it immediately, just like they do with our snowplow. All we need to do is make sure that we're on that list if we want to get something done. And I can tell you they don't discriminate. It made no difference that I was on the board and my neighbors were laughing at me. To get this sort of thing done, it makes no difference. They're very fair, and they also are very cognizant of what we're talking about, the reserves. They're very cognizant if they can put something off for 3 months, if it's in March and we're going to go into September, they're going to take care of it and make sure the money is there to get it done, so assessments don't go up.
I think part of the reason homeowners are unresponsive to violation reports are that either they're unclear about what to do about it, or they just didn't realize that they had the violation. So I think we should make the mailing process, I think we should make it clearer for them, and also provide ways that they could undo the violation.
I go back to my earlier statement about in my last HOA, I mean, there are things you legally have to list in the disclosure packet. The very first page of the very first letter, and how much was owed and was there a property violation, yes or no. Then you'll tell the legal stuff. Also, again, communicate with not just the owners, but with whoever's living tenants as well. I have to agree with Sophia about the quality. When I purchased my home, there was discoloration on the rear siding. That was a violation. I stared at that siding for 2 months before I realized that you couldn't actually see this from the back of the house at all. You could only see it from the far corner over at the other end. Discoloration, and you know, I power washed the back of the house, got another violation. I was like, what? You know. So those are some of the things.
Thank you. Are there any final questions? I think this will be the last. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Stephens. Did you hear the question? Hello?
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're talking to me?
Yes.
All right. I'm just having trouble hearing. I think the question was regarding the covenant and the interpretation, is that correct?
It's
I understand that there's a backlog of violations of individual homeowners and how we can get that addressed.
Well, I think what individual homeowners have to understand is that we are going to enforce those covenants. Now, I'm not familiar with the waiting period or how much time they give them, but without enforcement, the laws are really no good. And it's not fair to the other homeowners that keep their property the way they ought to be. Now, I do know there has been some controversy about Lake Ridge and our covenants, and regarding they're too strict. Now, I don't know whether they're too strict or not, but I do think that there has to be a sense of urgency by the board to deal with this issue and to do what they need to do to get compliance, including legal action. Thank you.
Thank you. Any final questions? If not, I'll just say that before we get to our concluding remarks from our candidates, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this evening. And that all homeowners by now should have received a ballot or a proxy in the mail. And you can either return that postage paid proxy, or you can vote online beginning January the 6th, which is tomorrow. And you can vote online until 5 p.m. February the 9th. And election results will be announced at the 44th annual meeting of the membership on February the 9th at 8 p.m. here right in this building, the Tall Oaks Community Center. We'll now ask our candidates to make any concluding remarks, beginning with Mr. Norfolk.
I'm not going to be redundant. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight as well, and the folks watching on Comcast. I want to serve another term. I want to be on your board for another 3 years. I started out, after I retired, working here from 2007 to 2011. I cut down trees. I watered flowers. I did dirt work. I did it all. That engendered an ability in me, at least emotionally, to become involved with the Homeowners Association and not just working for it or volunteering. I want to be involved. I want your vote.
Thank you, Ms. Ferguson.
Thank you for coming out this evening. I'm very interested in serving on the board. I've just made a very big commitment to the community. I will do my best to advocate for and appeal for improvements and continuation of good deeds. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Delphin.
It will be an honor to have the opportunity to serve the community where I live. If elected, I will work with the board to balance the budget, improve communication with businesses, the leasing communities, and the homeowners. And I will work to improve transparency. My previous experience as a member of the board of the Recreation Association is well suited for this position. In previous Lake Ridge elections, candidates and some elected board members were asking about the expenses. We should look into expenses and continue to balance the budget as needed. Effective communication is imperative for the benefit and safety of our community. As a board member, we work to establish better communications with all the boarders, businesses, leasing communities, and homeowners. It sounds like we are doing great financially. Let us look into the reestablishing relationships with our members. Once the Lake Ridge Association improves its communication with the membership at large, a flow of information will yield a better understanding of how the association works and operates. Finally, as long as I live here, I will work to maintain a high standard of living. I will continue to look into the security concerns and the needs of our community. Lake Ridge is a neighborhood with positive reputation. If elected, I will continue to work together with my neighbors to increase the quality of life and to improve the communications. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. O'Hara.
I would also like to thank the LRPRA staff and the nominating committee for their efforts on behalf of this election and for you all coming out out tonight. Although I have not lived in Lake Ridge very long, I have long been active here in this community with work in the organizations that I've mentioned earlier. I have built and helped to maintain Pro to the East End Trail, and I've worked with the Parks Department for many years on plans for that trail. I helped Prince William Dogs organize its first 2 Dogs Walk for a Dog Park events that take place here in Lake Ridge. Every year I help to organize and participate in the Occoquan River cleanup, as well as the Blues Run cleanup in the fall over the years. I support continuing to work with the Parks Department to continue the East End Trail and reduce erosion along the banks of the Occoquan River. And indeed, I'd like to see the LRPRA take greater steps to reduce erosion and the amount of trash entering the river in places that are not along that trail. I support the current board's actions regarding the deer management plan, and as a member of this board, I would work to ensure the protection of the wilderness area.
Thank you, Ms. Sophia Whittle.
I'm sure many of you are wondering why someone my age would want to run for the LRPRA Board of Directors. So let me tell you a little bit about this. I've lived in Prince William County my whole life. I live off of Hedges Run in Lake Ridge. Currently attend Lake Ridge Middle School. In my spare time, I enjoy horseback riding, reading, and playing with the adults. I've been a volunteer with Prince William Trails and Streams Coalition for 8 years. With the PWTSC, I helped build parts of the East End Trail. I've been involved in local politics my whole life, and last year I helped with the local supervisors campaign. I'm a member of my local 4-H club, the Phantom Riders, and last year I was their secretary. In my last community, I organized cleanups and homeless drives. I do these things because I want to help the community, which is also why I'm running for the board of directors. I think if I were on the board, I would bring a much needed younger perspective, and I look forward to serving the Lake Ridge community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Steffens?
I believe that the board and its leadership is critical to maintaining the high standards of Lake Ridge. My background in managing large budgets, focusing on streamlining programs, and the ability to use common sense in decision-making will serve you well if you elect me. I intend to focus on enhancing Lake Ridge's relationship with local law enforcement to be better informed of security and safety issues. I support the current effort to build walking trails to make it easier to enjoy the rich wooded environment surrounding our community. I will focus on ensuring that your membership fees are used appropriately with the focus of maintaining property values, safety and security, and enriching the beauty of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And we wish you all the best of luck in the coming election, and please let's show our appreciation. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our Meet the Candidates night. Thank you very much.